Hello, everyone. We are certainly delighted to have you with us today. We are excited about our webinar, our panel presentation. And let me introduce to some and present to others our esteemed, illustrious Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at the Interdenominational Theological Center, the Reverend Dr. Maisha Itia Karyamu Handy, who also pastors the Rise Community Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Let us give it up for our Provost. Woo!
Woo! Thank you so kindly. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to this conversation and opportunity to learn more about the Interdenominational Theological Center, known as the ITC. We're excited that you're with us today to learn a little bit more about our degree programs. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about and lifting up our Master of Arts in Liturgical Arts and Culture degree. As you know, our country and world is in a lot of turmoil right now. It's been a lot, family. It's been a lot. Coronavirus, of course, impacted us globally through a pandemic. And as we know, the numbers of Black and brown people being hospitalized and dying because of this disease due to health and other disparities is ongoing. We're also dealing with the unjust killing of Black people, including Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, to name a few. The peaceful protests and civil disobedience, the righteous unrest, we've seen it all, but we also see the masses are standing together and are sending a powerful message that we are tired of being abused and killed. And so beyond what we see right now, we need prophetic problem solvers. We need leaders who will engage in an educational process that will prepare them to address these societal issues alongside and with their communities. We want to develop viable strategies for changing these systems and our world. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. And if you have any questions, if you're here on our webinar, we ask that if you have questions for our panelists, use the chat feature on the webinar. It may be listed as Q&A as well, but go ahead and just type your questions in the chat so that we can make sure that we are responsive. We have some outstanding panelists who are with us today, joining us for this discussion on what it means to be a prophetic artist. First, we have Dr. Lisa Allen-McLaurin, who is the Helmar Nielsen Professor of Music, Church Music and Worship at the ITC, Atlanta, Georgia, where she has been with us for a while now, yes, almost a couple of decades. She has a PhD in music education and has a long-standing career in music and worship. She has also served as the senior pastor of the West Mitchell CME Church of Atlanta. Dr. Allen-McLaurin currently serves as the coordinator of practical ministries for the 6th Episcopal District of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. She is also the pastor of worship arts at Rise Community Church. Welcome, Dr. Allen-McLaurin. We have my wonderful brother, Mr. Michael K. Williams. Michael is best known for his remarkable work on The Wire. Many of you probably watch The Wire. The wit and humor that Williams brought to Omar, you know, Michael, your name is almost synonymous with Omar from The Wire. But he made Omar one of television's most memorable characters. Williams also co-starred in HBO's critically acclaimed series, Boardwalk Empire, in which he played Chalky White. In 2012, Boardwalk Empire won a Screen Actors Guild Award for outstanding performance by an ensemble in a drama series. Williams also received his first Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor for HBO's Bessie, and he received several subsequent Emmy nominations. His recent project includes Ava DuVernay's Netflix miniseries, When They See Us, which tells the heartbreaking story of the Central Park Five, from which Michael received his third Emmy nomination as an actor. Michael was also recently with the ITC community earlier this semester for a screening of his documentary film, Raised in the System. And I know Michael also from Rise Community Church. And so Michael, we are thrilled to have you back with us. Third and last, but certainly not least, we have Reverend Willie Nelson III, who is a graduate of the ITC, where he received the dual Master of Divinity and Master of Arts in Church Music degrees. And I'm very excited to say Willie Nelson was a student in my classes and Dr. Allen-McLaurin's classes. He has a long-standing career as a church musician and worship leader, which began for him at age 13 as a Sunday school pianist. He currently serves as the pastor of worship arts at Ousley United Methodist Church in Lithonia, Georgia, where Reverend Tyree Cummings, who was also an ITC graduate, serves as the senior pastor. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Let's go ahead and get into this conversation, which I already know is going to be good. As I've stated, the ITC offers this Master of Arts program, which really is focusing on the arts and how the arts intersects culture. In that degree program, we offer a course titled The Artivist Palette, taught by Dr. Dama Riles. As a way of further introducing yourselves, how do you understand your work as an artist and an activist? A palette is something that an artist uses, of course, to paint a picture. So if we were to look at your picture or your portrait, what would we see? Dr. Allen-McLaurin, let's start with you, and then let's go to Michael and Willie. We'll just stay in the order in which we were introduced.
Shay, and it's so great to see all of you.
You as well.
The wonderful poet Sonia Sanchez told us that the Black artist is dangerous. Black art controls the Negro's reality, negates negative influences, and creates positive images. And so that in itself is revolutionary. The idea that a people who are on these shores have been demonized, marginalized, oppressed, have found the strength, the courage, the will, the tenacity to break these stereotypes, these molds into which we have been placed in a sense through the creativity of our own prophetic way. It is revolutionary. The fact that whatever has been enacted upon us has not been enough to silence us, but that we have found voice, and not just voice, but we have found joy. We have found beauty. We have found an aesthetic realm in which we share with the world the beauty of who we are. And so my art as activism certainly speaks in these realms. The work that I've done through the church, the work that I've done through art in the community, through music, through worship, speaks to the beauty of Blackness, the beauty of Africa and African descended peoples. So I center that in my work. It is not something that I do as an afterthought. It is not something that I do as an add-on. Blackness and the beauty of Blackness is centered in my work. That is how I rage against the system.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Michael, of course, we see you are quite visible, both nationally and internationally, but tell us a little bit more about who you are as an artist and as an activist.
Yes, first of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me in this, top-notch panel of people that I've come to respect. And before I go on and babble about my journey, I just want to say to the doctor, I just want to say thank you for what you put into the community through your gift of music. I was able to bear witness. I was privileged to bear witness to what you do with your gift in the community at Rise Community Church with the young people, the choir, you know, when I learned that the majority of the young people in the choir had never seen sheet music, much less knew how to read it. And that Christmas, that caroling that went on at Christmas with all that original music that you wrote and composed, Doctor, and to share that with the community and to have those young people learn the gift of reading music and to be able to touch my heart like that. I just want to say that was such a testimony to your gift and to your heart and to what you do and what you mean to the community, to the young people. And particularly, I believe music is is universal language. It calms the savage beast. You know, it transcends color, race, gender, you know, age, everything. Music unites us as a human race, and you truly have the gift of music, and you share it so beautifully. So I just wanted to just say I was so touched by those Christmas carols that happened last year. I got to bear witness to that. I just wanted to put that out there first. You know, for me, you know, when things really started to change was when I heard a quote by the late, great Nina Simone, who said that it is an artist's duty to reflect the times in which they find themselves. That spoke volumes to me. It also spoke volumes to me when people started, when the community that I come from, people that look like me, were running up to me and saying, thank you for the portrayal of Omar. It wasn't just, oh, that guy's on television. It was the community had recognized me as a voice for the voiceless through the arts. And I that humbled me. It humbled me. I remember the early times when people would come up to me and say they loved The Wire and they loved my portrayal of Omar. It would make me cry. You know, I struggled with it because I think deep down inside I knew that it was a responsibility. And not just some, oh, I'm on television and I get to have people treat me a certain way. It was a responsibility for me, a big one, when the community started to recognize me for the work on The Wire. It was also very challenging for me at one point when the character of Omar had to kill the character of Stringer Bell. I struggled with that on that day on the set. It was that point that I wondered, am I keeping it real or am I perpetuating the problem? How come these two dark-skinned alpha men have to settle their differences with a bullet? How come one of them got to go? To be able to be in the community and agree to disagree. What narrative am I sending to my young people in my community, to my little brothers and sisters, to my children? And I grappled with that a lot, you know. And then it was excuse me, I lost my train of thought. You know, and then there was, how can I change that narrative? How can I use my gift, my platform, to tell a different narrative? And the answer was simple: tell a different narrative. You know, it was then that I realized that I had to stop depending on people that were not from my community to tell the stories in my community. You know, it was time for me to tell my stories, to tell my truth, and to also show what it can be. So, you know, I started to take the stories that I've been producing. I started to take them a little bit more seriously, and figuring out ways I can show a different narrative, tell a different story about what it could be. Not everything doesn't have to be what it is, and what it is not everything in my community. There's a lot of good in my community, in our community. And I decided with my production company, it was my responsibility to start to tell the other stories that go on in the hood. And lastly, you know, I remember when I first started to come around, when they call it the breakout role, but why it was my breakout role. And I remember, you know, the narrative, the conversation was, aren't you afraid of being typecasted? Oh no, aren't you afraid of being typecast? And I was like, you know, you don't ask, do other people that from other nationalities and other cultures, are they asked that question about, are they made to worry about being typecasted because they tell the stories from their community? And I had to ask myself, what does that mean? How come, my urban characters will get me typecasted? And what's wrong with being typecasted? I am a Black man. I can't play no other roles except a Black man. Why am I made to worry about being typecasted? And what does that do to my psyche? It'll drive me crazy trying to be something that I could never be. I can't be nothing else but a Black man. So I asked myself, what does that mean? How come they single me out and ask me, am I afraid of being typecasted in my work? And I says, oh, I get it, Michael. It is my job to make sure that they don't typecast me. It's because in the typecasting, I realized that they are trying to generalize the Black experience of what it's like to grow up in the hood. Just because you and I grew up in the same community, grew up in the same building, grew up in the same broken family type of structure, mama, no daddy, we could both be middle children of 3 or 4 kids. We could have almost even both have been touched by the system. We can have all of those things in common and still be individuals with a different experience and of what it's like and to grow up in the community. And so I had the pleasure of growing up in the projects, and it was Vanderveer is 59 buildings strong. Each building has 6 stories, and each floor has 7 apartments. That's a lot of people. And I made it my responsibility that every time I was asked to come to the plate, I get to tell a different story, a different reality, a different journey about a different person from my community. They don't have to know. That's just my responsibility to not let them generalize my community and the people that come from it. And that's where I'm at with it.
Awesome. Wow. What a powerful testimony and picture that we're seeing of your life. Thank you so much, Michael. Willie, same question. Who are you, and how do you understand the intersection of artistry and activism?
Greetings to all who are on, to all of our panelists. Thank you for this opportunity. I am humbled and truly honored to be on this panel with my mentors, my professors. It's truly humbling and a joy to be on this platform. So thank you all for allowing this opportunity. Those you are watching, who is Willie Nelson? That's a good question. It is a journey that started really at the ITC. In my identity, who am I? Who am I called to be? Who is God calling me to be? And it is at that place that has been the springboard for my informing my ministry, the awareness as we talk about culture, about my people, as I said in Dr. Welch's class, and even in light of all that's going on right now, as I tell people, the epidemic within the pandemic, as we approach and as I approach race, who I am as a Black man, even now currently serving at a historically and predominantly white denomination. What does that look like for Willie, for who I am, for who I stand for? Understanding, for those who followed me on social media, I told my story Friday, very emotional and raw story that I had never shared with not even my parents, my family, about my encounter with a white police officer in Poplar, Mississippi, who held a gun to my face, who told me to walk upon him and pointed a gun at me. And as I said, with my hands up, sir, respectfully, sir, you told me to walk towards you. And he said, don't sass me, boy. And that moment changed me without me even realizing, because as Black people have been on this journey, we have been suppressed, oppressed, marginalized. And so the intersection for me, even in telling that story in the midst of, I have white followers, Asian followers, and who said, I I never knew that I knew someone who had gone through that. I never realized I was that close to someone. And I said, yes, this is the plight of the Black man, of our Black bodies. How I won't call myself an activist, but I'm learning to speak truth and continuing on that journey to speak truth to powers. As a worshiper, I tell people I have to worship in spirit and in truth. The actualized existence of truth and spiritual righteousness. So even at this place in my journey, wrestling with the rage that the Word of God tells us we are allowed to feel. I tell people from the lament, we like grief is okay. But if we say rage, if we say anger, that's most times, all right, well, let's pray about that. Because, God doesn't want to say, no. Let's go back and look at this thing. Jesus turned tables. So even in this era, allowing people even to tell my story, the rage that I feel for my people, as I told, I work in corporate, I'm a realtor, and even within my company yesterday, I said, for you all who don't have the color skin that I have and the lineage that I have, you've been on top of the mountain for 400 years. How's the view? Because we've been trying to get there, and it's been a struggle. And I need you all to understand, for many of my community who haven't had much, who've been treated like we ain't much, yeah, we have a right to riot. We have a right to be angry. And so that's where, with myself, my journey, and how I'm able to do that in ministry, even with being the pastor of worship arts, being able to have prayers that are very open and honest about where we are. ITC really allowed me that platform to really explore how, as we would say, how are you feeling? and to say it's okay not to be okay.
That's good.
That's where I, in this intersection of activism and speaking out and speaking up.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Powerful stuff, y'all. We're already into it. We're into the meat in this organic kind of conversation. Dr. Allen, I'm gonna pitch the ball back to you. And so what is the role of theological education then in preparing students to become these prophetic problem solvers? Whether it's through church music, through liturgics, through worship comprehensively in congregations, but even beyond congregations. As you know, ITC's degree programs have 3 emphases. You can focus on congregational studies, of course, but we also have an academic emphasis, and then we have a public life emphasis. And so how can a degree in music or focus in cultural arts enable persons to be public theologians?
Ashe, and thank you to Brother Michael and Brother Willie, Reverend Willie, for your just awesomely prophetic statements, meaningful statements. One of the things that Brother Williams said that points directly to this question about what is the task of theological education here. Several people came up to me after that Christmas presentation. It was Advent presentation of Christmas is Waiting to be Born, an Advent cantata inspired by the works of Howard Thurman. Several people came up to me, I've never heard of Howard Thurman. Who is Howard Thurman? And I'll never forget being in seminary my first year, and I came to seminary out of a first career as a teacher. I was teaching music and then was called into ordained ministry. And we had to read these mystics, Julian of Norwich and Teresa of Avila. And I just never could connect with the narratives that they gave, because they were basically what we would consider now nuns, spiritual women living in convents, kind of away from what we would consider the quote unquote real world. And that's not to diminish or disparage their testimonies, but I just never could fully connect with that. It just did not really hit me at my core. But when I was introduced by the Reverend Dr. Luther Smith, Professor Emeritus of Church and History at Candler, to Howard Thurman, who was a mystic theologian, but very squarely planted in the real world. His narratives, his testimony spoke directly to me and stayed with me. Now, I graduated from seminary in 2003. So you see the span of time, but I became, as we are to want to say in the academy, a Thurmanite, because his words rang true to me. So part of the task of theological education is to help students connect what they are already bringing, the core value, the core understandings of who they are out of their own communities with these writers, with these theologians, with these artists, with these activists. And so part of the purpose of this degree is to help artists, persons who are already in that community, and artists includes writers, right? So that includes writers. We're not just talking about people who dance or who sing or who play, but we're talking also about writers. We would definitely say County Cullen was an artist. We would definitely say Langston Hughes was an artist. You know, Audre Lorde was an artist. And so people who write as well to connect those narratives and put them in conversation with these theological tenets, with these religious parameters, and then to push beyond what is already there. And so the ideas that we encounter in Barth, in Tillich, in King, you know, in these various and sundry theologians and these authors that we read, it is not just to take in that information and then recite that. It is to take that, put it in conversation with your reality, and then devise, create something new that then speaks directly to your community.
Good. Willie, I'm gonna circle back to you, I think, on this last question. I'm gonna save that one for you. But Michael, and so as we think about the film industry, right? And as we think about Black people in the film industry, you know, of course, we have an increased amount of Black film directors, filmmakers, actors, and, you know, you're talking to the Atlanta community right now, largely. And so Atlanta is huge right now in terms of filmmaking, film production. We have major motion picture studios here, production here. Of course, Tyler Perry Studios is here, the first Black-owned motion picture studio. And so tell us about the intersection of Black filmmaking, acting, and social justice. And then if you could weave into that, what role does your spirituality play in your life as connected to your work as an actor? You have to unmute yourself, Michael. There we go.
Mute. First of all, you know that there's more than just a shift of Black and brown people being in front of the camera. You know, you talked about the likes of Tyler Perry, you know, and I'd like to add a few more, 3 ladies' names to that list: Ava DuVernay, Lena Waithe, the young lady, I'm blanking on her name right now, the sister who wrote and produced Insecure on HBO. What is her name? Just a second, blanking out, pardon me. What's her name, brother? Issa Rae. These queens, I'm taking their lead. You know, it's not just putting us in front of the camera. They're coming into the arena, already have written and produce their stories, their narrative. They're coming in telling you this is the narrative that we are going to tell. This is the Black experience. Those three ladies, in my opinion, are really where the game-changing ingredient is for me right now. You know, owning our content, telling our stories, and doing it our way, and not compromising, you know, on, you know, or having to have the token white person because, you know, so we can sell. No, that we're unapologetically Black storytellers. That is where, as far as like people of color in Hollywood, I believe that's where we should be heading in that direction. And as far as my spirituality goes, you know, as we all know, a lot of my characters that I've portrayed are same sex, and in my spirituality, the way I was raised at in my church home in Newark, New Jersey, Christian Love Baptist Church, there was a big sign on the top of that church, and it said, "All sinners are welcome." If you broken, Christian Love wasn't the church. If you wasn't broken, or didn't have a thorn in your side, then Christian Love was not the home for you. If you perfect, find the church. We want the broken people. We want the people who are downtrodden, who get oppressed in society, in our communities. And so, for me, I took that I took that ministry into the realm of my acting. And if there was a human being that feels that way, that understands this, especially someone of color, who can understand, okay, oh my God, thank you. When I've had the gay community come up to me and say, thank you. You know, so for me, that is my job, to speak truth and to be a voice for the voiceless. And that's where my spirituality lies in regards to my work.
Ooh, ashe and amen.
Ashe.
In the chat, I've explained those two terms and the difference between the two. Michael, I know you know that. And so we thank you and we say ashe to you and to your witness. It's not an easy thing, I'm sure, to make those choices. I'm sure that, you know, you have to risk being overlooked for some roles because you're being typecast, as you said. But as you said, for being a voice for the voiceless, the marginalized, the ostracized, and those who are on the underside of society. I think what the energy of right now is showing us is that, you know, if we're silent because we feel like an issue does not pertain to us or to our segment of the population, it's only a matter of time before they're coming for you. And so you better stand up now, and you better stand in solidarity with those who are being marginalized and oppressed now, because it's only a matter of time. You know, oppression, you know, in many respects does not discriminate, especially when you have dictators in power who want ultimate control of everything and everybody. You better get on board and lift your voice. Amen. And so this last question then has to do with healing. How do we heal our nation? You know, one of the roles of theological education, of the seminary experience, again, is to help us to solve the problems of the community, to help us to construct alternate systems and ways of being, but also to bring about healing for our world. And so, Willie, I want you to jump on this question first, and then I'm going to ask Michael and Lisa to jump in here as well. What's the relationship between music and the arts, church music, church worship, and healing?
That's such a loaded question. And we talked about music, its role, not only the emotive part of music. I tell people, and there's tons of studies on it, from music therapy to how we, even in particularly the Black church, how we can have Mother Jenkins that will sing a song, Amazing Grace, you know, and even what isn't as strong as it used to be, but there's something that comes with amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And as my brother Michael said, people really think about the grace that God has extended over their lives and are drawn to tears. I've seen some amazing dancers that have interpreted a piece that have, to our very core, just, it'll make you cry, it'll make you reflect. How does music, particularly in the Black church, I'm gonna use that context, how does it seek to be a healing agent? And what does that mean to be healed? One of my ITC readings that I love, Henry Nouwen, The Wounded Healer. And he talks about even though we have our idiosyncrasies, even though we have our, I hate to say flaws, but our areas of challenges that we may have, all of that works together, that now I can talk to my brother because I've had a gun put up to my face by a police officer. So I can talk to you about that. I can write about, as an artist, I can write about that. I can sing about that. I actually did a call to worship on Sunday. And part of it was my, you know, and I, as I tell them, Dr. Allen, you know, I had to explain what call to worship was, the reason why we gather to speak about, we are gathering you here for this reason. And I shared with them, I said, you know, I'm standing from a place, God, where I need you. I need your spirit in this hour, in this time, to intervene. Because the humanity in me, I don't know how I really can wrestle with this. I don't know how I can frame this space. So my call to worship was, God, if I ever needed you before, I need you now. And even just acknowledging that, persons who have felt I was at my wit's end, I have been. As I've been telling people, Dr. Haney, quite honestly, I have been tired. For the last week, I have cried daily. I have cried daily. I'm mentally and emotionally tired. That sound familiar? We can look through the songs. We can go look. And it's interesting. I saw this book on my piano, and it brought back the song, how should we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? And we have to remember how we made it over. And I say that because we are back at this place, and I'll cut across the field. It hit me the other day, our civil rights era, which we're talking about, we're trying to juxtapose this era now and the civil rights. And I said, one of the things about the civil rights, there's many things about it that we could learn from and take from. I said, but they had their own songs that were birthed out of the civil rights movement. When they would come together, there was something that was powerful and healing for them to walk together, children, and don't you get weary, there's a great camp meeting. You know, all of these songs, don't get tired. We're doing this together. And we had Marvin Gaye, what's going on, but I'm waiting even in this era for the artists that will rise up, and that the Spirit of God that will manifest out of the art that will come out of this, the songs that will come out of this strange time, out of this unprecedented time, the artwork, the thoughts, the writings, because I believe there's healing in it. There's therapy in it. There's therapeutic method in us expressing that. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Woo, healing. Michael, there's a question for you. And we can go ahead and weave this right on into the Healing the Nation question and into the music, because of course, when you're in films, those films have soundtracks also. The music is being selected and orchestrated to, of course, help depict what's being shown on film. But Nancy asked about your new show on HBO. She said it looks like a combination of Eve's Bayou meets Alien. So talk us about that, but also answer this question about healing.
Okay, so I'll answer the question about healing first. I also had a gun pulled on me, and it wasn't by no cop. The truth of the matter is, I've grown up in the projects in Brooklyn, East Flatbush, Brooklyn, and I've never had that experience with law enforcement. The time that the gun was put to my head was by someone who looked and dressed exactly like me. So for me, healing starts with us. We have to recognize that we have been stripped of our ability to communicate and to listen to each other. Middle Passage took that from us. The house versus the slave versus the field, all of that, light skin, dark skin, all of those things has been injected in us into our community to keep us at bay and to keep us from coming together and galvanizing and taking care of each other. We've forgotten about the village and what that meant coming from Africa, from the motherland. We've lost sight of that. It was stripped from us, and so there was nothing to pass on to our children. And for me, healing starts in the home. Before I can take it out into the world, I gotta get it first at the home. I can't get blood from a rock. So when I think about healing, for me, it's about answering the question, why am I so okay with killing someone that looks like me? Why am I okay with putting my women down and calling them out of their name and sexualizing them? Why am I okay with this stuff? Why do I pop my finger to the music that holds our community down and says certain things? I mean,
Wow, that was getting good. It looks like Michael lost his signal.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. My battery died. Yeah, so when I think about healing, it starts home. For me, healing starts home first. I still have trauma from that. I've been conditioned to be afraid of my own children, of my own little brothers and sisters when I see them. I'm guilty of that. And so for me, healing starts with me. It starts at home. It starts in my heart. How can I come back to my community and have our young people talk to each other and to learn how to talk to each other and listen to each other? How can I come back to my community and show my young people how to agree to disagree without going to hands or picking up the gun or the knife? What does that look like in my community? I can't worry about no other race right now healing until I learn how to heal my own children and heal myself with the trauma that we've inflicted on each other through systemic racism over these years. The ability to talk to each other and to listen to each other and to love each other. How do I look in the mirror and love what I see? That's the healing. That's where healing starts for me. And to answer the other young lady's question, so Lovecraft Country is the name of the new show on HBO, and it couldn't have come at a more timely fashion. So H.P. Lovecraft was the first. He was the first science fiction author. He came from a very, very, very dark life. There was rumors that said that he had a dog named White Man. So, but he wrote he wrote a series of novels that was kind of like the Twilight Zone. It was the socially charged topics mixed with the bizarre and the science fiction, if you will, and that's what the world is based on. So, Lovecraft Country is a book that was written on the series of books that H.P. Lovecraft had written, and we followed this. It's the journey of a Black family that survived the Tulsa massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, moved to the south side of Chicago and dealt with segregation and racism there and in the Jim Crow era. So we look at the Black family experienced in Jim Crow America and what that looked like, mixed with the bizarre, with the science fiction and the monsters and the sorcery and the secret societies of our nations, of our country, of our society. That's, and with long story short, that's what Lovecraft Country is about.
Wow, I'm looking forward to that as, of course, a student of our history and her story, but also as a sci-fi head. So
I would have pegged you past as a sci-fi head.
That, you know, I won't get into my theories on what the genre of horror is as a projection of American culture. I'm gonna skip that one right now. Dr. Allen, I want to weave a couple of questions to you, and then we need to get ready to close out. Talk to us about our healing traditions. When we look historically at African-American culture, you know, we looking into the Brush Harbor, you know, and before that in African traditions, what are some of the healing traditions that are taught at ITC, that are taught in your classes, that we can bring forward into this moment? And then the second part of the question, I'm asking you to kind of juggle two things here, but we have someone on the line who, and this is a great question, who's asking, does the degree program at ITC take a student and help them to become a prophetic artist, or are they already a prophetic artist and they can join the program at ITC and speak out of what they're doing and how they're living as a prophetic?
I'll start with the question first. The answer to that, all of that is yes. So wherever you are, whether you have been in the struggle of prophetic activism, whether you consider yourself to be a prophetic voice, whether you even know what that is, we welcome you, and we will start where you are. As a matter of fact, I can use Howard Thurman again. We will meet you at the level of the ashtray.
Woo!
Read The Creative Encounter by Howard Thurman. So we'll meet you where you are, and we'll start there and go from there. So don't be afraid, anybody who may be saying, well, I don't know that I have, you know, that I know what that is, or that I've ever done that, or that's even necessarily my calling. Because see, sometimes, I was reading a news story the other day, we all have roles to play. So some of us are on the front lines. Some of us are back home making sure that the people on the front lines get fed. You know, everybody in the civil rights movement wasn't marching. So some of the people were cooking to make sure that the civil rights workers got fed. Some of them were working in these people's houses, getting the information that they needed to know to help the civil rights workers know, okay, don't go over there now, because that's going to be happening over there. No, you might want to go over here now. And so there are places for each of us to operate within the prophetic tradition and spectrum. And so to this notion, so yes, come to the ITC. We have it for you. But as to these healing traditions, in the African understanding, if I can use that, and of course, Africa is not a monolith. It's not a country. Africa is a continent composed of countries. And so within those countries, you have numerous tribes, you have numerous traditions, you have, but one strand that we see throughout is the ability to heal its people. And so as part of an African way of being, of understanding, is this notion of healing its people of whatever trial, tribulation, injury they may incur. Now, sometimes that's through the use of natural medicines, homeopathy. Sometimes that's through the use of art, of music, of drumming, of worship. So that we have that legacy from our African ancestors. On these shores, one of the first ways that we enacted healing upon each other was through the power of touch, through the power of presence, through the power of seeing each other. That we might not have been able to communicate verbally, but we could communicate with our eyes. If you ever read the novel The Coming by Dr. Daniel Pierre Black, we could communicate through our eyes. We could communicate through our hands as we could. But then also, as we began to navigate what it meant to live in places that were not our places, we found those places of respite out in the forest, out in the brush arbor is what we call it, where we could commune with the gods of our ancestors, with the spirit. And whatever we heard in the church of the plantation owner, whatever we heard, from anyone else, we could go out there and have a true experience of healing through communing with the spirit. So one of the things that we focus on through this program is how our ancestors did that. And then how do we translate that into, matter of fact, I'm working on a book right now, Risking a Whipping, the Theoethics of Worship. And in that, I'm looking at what are the ways now in this 21st century that our worship spaces conjure up healing, that are true to our native land. And what are the ways that we are not? What are the ways that we have brought down supremacy on ourselves by following somebody else's patterns and trajectories that are not, that are antithetical to who we are? And so how do we recapture, reclaim, revitalize what our ancestors have given us in the ways of healing that speak to us now?
Wow. That's a good word to end on right there. We extend this invitation to you to come and join this community at the Interdenominational Theological Center so that you can continue this conversation and this dialogue and get in on this goodness right here, where we're not just theorizing, but we're engaging in what we call praxis in the relationship between thinking about it and doing it. And so we'd be very excited. This is our signature at the ITC, to teach from our traditions, to know that they are valuable, that they are viable as a groundwork for constructing the ways in which we need to move forward to bring into fruition a better and a more just world through a liberating and transforming spirituality. I want to thank our panelists on today. Thank you so much, Brother Michael Williams, Michael K. Williams, you got to put that K in there, for taking time out. Brother, we know that you are still working even in the middle of coronavirus and taking care of so many people up there in New York, where there's a ton of energy in the streets right now. And so thank you for your life and for your witness. Thank you, Reverend Willie Nelson, for being a stellar and model representation of what it means to be an alum of the ITC. Thank you for your witness in the world. And always thank you, Dr. Lisa Allen-McLaurin, a member of our faculty at the ITC. We're going to ask Dr. Allen-McLaurin and Willie, Reverend Nelson, to stay on as we have questions specifically related to the degree program. And Natasha Jordan is going to come on with admissions. Michael, you're welcome to stay as well. You know some of the side conversations we've been having as well. So, but if you need to leave, we certainly understand. So Michael, just go ahead and say a quick goodbye to us. Unmute yourself. And
first of all, I just want to give a big fat shout out to the congregation of Rise Community Church. I will be seeing you soon once all this stuff dies down here in New York City. I ask that y'all keep me in your prayers and your thoughts. because you know, we're struggling right here in the streets of New York City. Our young people, they need us right now more than ever. They need us to lift them up and support them and to hear them and not demonize them. So all I ask is that you keep us in your prayers, and as I know I am, and I know you do, and just thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, sir. We love you, Michael, and
Love
thank you
you
all
too.
for taking time out to be with us at the ITC.
Bye.
We have our Director of Admissions, Ms. Natasha Jordan, who is absolutely outstanding, the best Director of Admissions in the land, and I mean what I'm saying. And Reverend Antonio Proctor, who works with her in recruiting. We have the dream team at ITC. You all already know that because they've been in constant contact with you and following up with you about your admissions processes. And so, Natasha, we want you to come now and share a little bit with us about that.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Natasha Jordan, and as Dr. Handy said, I am the Director of Admissions. Just wanted to go over the admissions process with you today and see if you have any questions or concerns. A lot of you have been getting emails from us asking how can we help you answer God's call. And the reason that you've been receiving those emails, because we didn't want to just talk about the admissions process. We wanted to have a vocational discernment conversation with you so that you could understand that we're here to help you decide who you want to be and what you came here to do. So again, this platform is open to still answer those type of questions. Dr. Lisa Allen-McLaurin is here with us if you have questions directed at the program. We want to make sure that we cover you and that you fully understand that the journey that you're getting ready to take, our goal is to help you be shaped as a leader. And our program is top notch. I can't think of a better place for you to rise as a prophetic problem solver at this time. So I can't think of a better time for you to start this program. I also want Mr. Antonio Proctor to introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I am Antonio. I work alongside our Director of Admissions, Ms. Jordan. Definitely to all of our prospects, we have been in touch with each of you. And I just want to echo all of the sentiments that have been stated today about what the ITC is. It is a rigorous education, but beyond a rigorous education, it is a transformative experience. And so we definitely welcome each of you prophetic problem solvers to this transformative experience that will help to better shape the call that you discern God has placed upon your life.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. So are there any questions or concerns that you guys want to discuss? If it's a personal or private question, we have Mr. Nicholas Petty at our office right now who can answer your call, who can answer your email if it's a private situation that you would rather not go across this platform. However, if it's a question or concern that you have that you're willing to share, this is the time. Any questions or concerns? That might mean that we're doing our job. So that's looking real good to me. And did I miss anything in the panel? So if there were any questions, I did see a question in regards to whether we were going to be online. And I did submit an answer in the panel saying that moving forward for this fall, our classes would be online. Past the fall, I would definitely have to get back to you because we are a work in progress as we're dealing with this pandemic. So I will definitely keep all prospective students updated. When I know, you know.
I see one question, actually a couple of questions. One is, I'm not sure from Lynetta King if this is an accreditation question. It says that you're interested in seminary in religion. Are you an HSBU or ATS? We are historically Black. We're classified as an HBCU. We are the only HBCU center of theological seminaries in the world. And so we are part of the HBCU family. As you know, the ITC is situated in the Atlanta University Center. So we are nestled right in the center of Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College, and Morris Brown. And all of us form a center of HBCU schools. The ITC is dually accredited. We are accredited by ATS, which is the Association of Theological Schools. That is our national accreditor. ATS accredits over 270 schools, theological schools in the United States and Canada. And then we are also regionally accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, known as SACS-COC. I saw another question about international students. Natasha, are we admitting international students at the ITC?
Yes, we are. So there has been some difficulty with international students actually receiving their visa. So what I've been doing, and I actually see Ms. Williams here as one of our attendees today. Hi. I've been sending the Student in States resource out to students because before the pandemic, and I'll be totally transparent, our international students were already having problems with our present administration getting visas to come to the United States. So that was already some difficulty there. Now with the pandemic, there are a lot of other rules and regulations that have been put in place. So while we are still accepting international students, what I am doing is sending them to the Student in the State resources so they can find out all the new rules and regulations. Now, because we are online, we'll be studying online this fall. The problem is when an international student is migrating to America, or United States rather, to take classes, they have to be registered for a full load on campus. They are only allowed to take one online class, and that's why this is really presenting a problem at this time. So what I am doing is basically giving out that resource. I'm suggesting that students get on the phone with the Department of Homeland Security just to see if there's any processes that they can help them with. Is there any appeals they can make, what they can do? Because when you speak with them personally, there may be something they can do for you personally that's not given to the general public. If you need help, if you need us to walk you through the process, feel free to call the office. If we need to three-way the call, we can do that. I don't have a problem assisting, it's just that I don't make the rules and regulations.
I saw a question about the admissions deadline. I think I answered that one. It's currently July 15th. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. And we are waiving application fees to June 15th. So if you've been pondering, if this is something that you're not sure about doing, it does not hurt to fill out the application and then we'll ponder with you.
And then someone said, my references have sent letters. Do I still need to have them complete the forms?
No, that's a great question. Our admissions team, with the exception of Mr. Nicholas Petty, is actually working from home. So we are accepting references to come in by email. We ask that you, or that the person writing the recommendation letter, email from their personal email.
Looks like Ms. Jordan.
As we are also audited, and we have to make sure that we're doing things right. So when they send that email, we need to be able to correspond with that person, but we are absolutely accepting everything by email, your unofficial transcript for now, and we'll hold it in place until we get that official transcript.
Okay.
I see one more question for Dr. Lisa Allen-McLaurin.
Yes, I see it from Marissa Tucker. What resources and facilities do you plan to use on campus to help artists create content? So for our applied lessons, which are, those are not core courses, they are electives. We have agreements with the other AU Center schools that you can go and cross-register to take. So if you want to take organ or piano or voice or dance, you are able to cross-register at Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark Atlanta to take those courses. Now we also have practice room facilities at ITC. We are developing what we are hoping is going to be our dance studio and drumming studio at ITC. So that is coming. but we also have ability, you know, we have instruments there in the chapel, we have piano, we have organ, and we have access to others. We just have to know, you know, kind of what students might be interested in so that we can work with the resources in the AU Center and beyond, because we have a network of churches also that we work with to get what we need to do the things that we want to do. We also have at ITC several students who are in the business of filmmaking in a sense. And you know, now in the advent of these, you know, I'm like, dear, these old iPhones, honey, they do everything now. And so you can shoot a whole movie on your phone. So, but we do have students and persons who work with us at the ITC who are capable of doing those things. So if you are even looking into doing that, we are able to get those resources for you. We just need to know what it is you would like to do, and we'll work it out to do it. I see from Nick Petty, he says the library has recording and editing equipment available to students when the pandemic passes. So of course the AUC Woodruff Library is also an excellent resource for recording and editing. And, and let me mention, since I mentioned the Woodruff Library, they have an excellent archives, just a phenomenal archive section that we have access to. There, I've gone in there. There are things from Du Bois. There are things from, I believe, from Thurman, from James Weldon Johnson. So yeah, I mean, it's just a phenomenal archives.
All right, I know we need to close out pretty soon. I saw a question about the cost of graduate school. ITC can actually boast very low cost in tuition relative to our peer institutions and theological schools. ITC is actually one of the more affordable graduate level schools offering master's degrees and the Doctor of Ministry degree. On average, we're running close to around $7,500 per semester. That's full-time equivalency, meaning you're taking between 9 and 15 credit hours. And of course, if you're part-time, it's less than that. And so we are very, very affordable. Also, yes, the MALC is a 2-year degree program. Yes, 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 thank you. So Natasha, Antonio, did you have anything you wanted to share?
I see one last question from Mary. She's asking about the admissions process. She said she applied online and then was sent a booklet. I know exactly what you're talking about, Mary. So yes, we received your online application and then we followed up with a welcome email. And at the end of that welcome email, there is another application booklet. I am a person who's very old school. I like to snug up with the book at night. So the reason that we send you that application booklet is just in case you want to print it and go through the information once again, not having to do that online. It also has some forms in there that you may want to fill out. So we just want to give you the option of doing everything digital, but we do already have your online application. But if you're a person who says, no, I want to fill out this paper with a pen and a paper because I need this to go up in the universe, because I'm like that. Sometimes I need to write things out. We understand that, and that's why we send you the PDF printable version. But if you're okay with doing everything online and your references sending in the emails to us directly, we're absolutely 100% okay with that. I hope that answers your question. I think that was the last one that I seen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. Thank you again to our panelists for being here, for our Director of Admissions and our recruitment team. Thank you, Reverend Proctor and Nick Petty, who's over in the office, but also in this webinar and fielding questions. Thank you all so much. Many thanks to Ms. Katrina Garnes, our Director of Communications and Marketing at the ITC, for doing an outstanding job of putting this together. To Ms. Nancy Lynn Jones, our Vice President of Institutional Advancement, who supervised this entire process. Thank you so much for your stellar work and your outstanding witness among us. Thank you to Derek Pope, who is here as our videographer, who put together that promo video that you saw. There's a closing video as well that's going to come. And thank you to the entire team, Angel Parks, to all of you at the ITC who worked to make this an outstanding experience. And thank you to our audience, to our prospective students who are here. We have current students here. We have alums who are here with us, and other supporters, community supporters. Thank you, entire community, for being with us. We want to close with a quick word of prayer, and then we ask that you would remain on for our closing video. And so we ask that you assume whatever posture of prayer is comfortable for you. Gracious and loving God, how we thank you that this is the day, as I love to say, that the Lord has made, and we continue to rejoice and be glad in it. God, we thank you, gracious Creator, loving God, for being in the midst of us, for speaking through us, and for upholding us, for sustaining us, oh God, in the midst of so many death-dealing realities that are experienced right now, not only in 2020, but for 400 plus years in this country. God, but we thank you that you are our sustainer, that you are our healer, and that we serve a resurrected Savior who got up so we can get up. And so we are taking off our grave clothes, oh God, and we are putting on the clothes of resurrection. We are putting on the clothes of life. And so we thank you so much for being with us for this remarkable experience and conversation that is not the end, but it is just the beginning of a dialogue that will continue regarding admissions to the ITC. We thank you that ITC stands in the middle of the Atlanta University Center as a place where people can come and explore the kind of liberating and transforming spirituality that will bring about justice and peace in this world. And so, God, we ask that you will be with everyone under the sound of my voice, wherever they find themselves, wherever they are going, however they choose to participate in this revolution and this movement that is coming forward right now. Keep them safe, oh God. Protect them and camp your angels all around them, oh God, to keep them safe and to protect them. Be with their families, their friends, their loved ones, God. Be with elders who are in assisting living centers by themselves. Be with loved ones who are in hospitals right now, oh God, who have no one to touch their bodies or to talk to. Keep us, oh God, and sustain us, oh God. And God, we ask that you would just push this pandemic out and away from us, God, and bring healing to this land. We thank you, oh God, that greater is the one that is in us than the principalities and the powers that are in the world. Let us keep our song. Let us keep our dance. Let us keep our rhythm. Let us keep all of the traditions that have sustained us and that have kept us thus far, true to our God and true to our native land. Amen, amen, amen. Ashe, 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 oh.
Deo.